What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Dust 2 US post-Cologne show. We've got a lot to talk about today. I think this is the first day I'm not wearing a hat, and my hair is feeling itself today, feeling frisky.
Oh yeah.
I've spent a good amount of time out there in the sun today. I've hung around it, so it's doing all its whole thing.
You went outside?
I touched some grass today. Well, it was easy to once we had the Brazil games so early this morning. They were at like 6:30. I had nothing to do after that. We were just doing some interview and transcripts like that. So, Lucas, how you doing today?
I am all right. Like you said, not very many games, so would have been nicer to see more America's teams go. But that's just how it goes.
Yeah, I think definitely that the games today were. It's unfortunate that they were so early. I don't think I was able to get really anything like emotionally too invested in it. There were also some pretty quick games. We had two 2-0s that looked uninspiring. It wasn't the Brazil that we know. It wasn't the Brazil that we love. And I think that we have a little bit of issues with them. We should talk about the first game, obviously. That's going to be 0-0 Nation versus FaZe. So this was an interesting game overall. I think that, and we just had an article come out that Jumao, in an interview that he did with Dust 2 Brazil, Jumao was going ahead and saying, I rejected Liquid for 0-0 Nation because he believes in the project. And we've had interviews with Taco, and we've had interviews with Try. The whole team kind of is just very excited that this organization and this group of guys are really, really like they're doing different things, and they're coming together and they're pushing out like new strats. And it's a good, there seems to be a lot of good feelings. How do you feel about 0-0 Nation?
I mean, I'm personally like super high on these guys. I'm really excited about the project. Anything with Dumao in it, I'm all for. I'm glad that they maintained Try. I know that there was some indifference about whether or not he would come along. I know Z were like kind of poking back at 0-0 Nation to get him back, but they got him. So those two prospects by themselves like give me a lot of favor towards that team. And then of course Taco and Coldzera as a pairing, historic in their own right. So and then you finish it off with Lotto. 5 different reasons to be excited about this team. Like personally myself, all 5 of those individuals I like. So
yeah.
And then they brought Chucky from
they brought the coach.
So
they brought the coach, and I think they actually got Dead too, who was the former manager of not Godsent, but like one of the orgs.
Right. So all of the bright spots that came from the Godsent lineup, that just kind of fell apart. When they came over, they all transitioned over to 0-0 Nation and combined with the best parts of that team. So far it's been great.
Yeah, I've been excited, but this game was tough. It was hard to get really excited. But Try again continues to just show up in this event. He's been topping the leaderboard almost every single time. I've been impressed with what he's been doing. So shout out to him. I think it was a great decision to keep him around. And we're gonna see more and more of this team. I think they're gonna have to go ahead and play against Team Liquid tomorrow morning. But let's talk about this game specifically. So we saw them first. They picked Ancient, and they had what was probably a very good CT side, or a very good T side. Sorry. They were able to get up their first 5 rounds. They went ahead. They only were able to hold FaZe to 10, which, as we know, Ancient is so CT sided. It's really, really like hard to be able to do that. They didn't win either pistol. So losing both pistols obviously really, really hurts you. You're not able to get any kind of the economy going, especially when you do that on your T side. And then in order to really kind of push yourself to get that good CT side, you need that first round pistol, which not doing that in that second half is what allowed FaZe to get 5 rounds on the bounce, pushing them up to 15. And then once your back's against the wall, that pressure of knowing, hey, we can't lose a single round, that's too hard. What did you think coming out of this game?
I think that if you look at just the individual stats and not like any of the round distribution or even like what the final scoreline was, it looks a lot worse than like the actual scoreline suggests. So like when you look at FaZe, a lot of their stars popped off. When I say a lot, I just say like I think it was like 2 or 3 players, obviously per FaZe.
Yeah.
They really, it's kind of all you need because they have such overwhelming talent, especially when you're talking about a 0-0 Nation that's like maybe a dozen maps in together. Like I did, speak praises on them, but they are very fresh together.
Yeah.
As like a 5. So coming in here and they got 13 on Ancient, and as you stated, they lost both pistols. So kind of factoring all of that in, and then you look at the scoreboard on an individual sense. Like nobody on 0-0 Nation particularly played like eye-poppingly well. So
yeah,
obviously they lost, but 13 rounds against FaZe. Again, you're a dozen maps in together. Not a bad start, I would say. If you're trying to grasp at positives in the middle of a loss, I think there's a lot to gain.
I think definitely working as a core together, they have a lot of room and growth that they'll still have. I think tomorrow's matchup against Liquid is going to be really, really interesting, especially since both teams are kind of on that uneven ground. They're going to be really needing this player break to recoup, to probably reorganize and practice more. Moving on to Inferno, which was FaZe's pick. That was not a very good map overall.
No.
Their CT side just completely fell apart. They also lost the first round pistol. And then they didn't seem to really be able to get anything. They were kind of on the back foot the whole time. They had about 2 defuses. The bomb was going off every single time. FaZe is just overwhelming them, and they're putting out so much pressure and pressure and pressure. And that, I think, when you have that really poor CT side going then as a team onto Inferno, you're not helping yourself in any advantage here.
Sure. I think one of the big detriments to them was, in fact, starting on the CT side, just because that's where they were exposed so greatly by FaZe, because, again, they are so fresh. Inferno against Kerrigan, not an easy matchup. Obviously, he is so tactically sound, and that's where they were like very much exposed. I think give them more time, Chucky, Taco, and the rest, they can kind of compile a better game plan, as you'd expect, but before the game ended on Inferno, they did actually win the second half in terms of like just straight up round versus round. They won more rounds. So obviously, with their backs against the wall because of the poor first half, that doesn't give them a lot of room for error. But there's that,
like, as a T-side half, it wouldn't have been that bad.
Yes, and if they would
that's what you're saying. It would have been okay, but it's just like tough that you had such a poor CT side half. You're not helping yourself at all, even when you do something well. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look over at the FURIA Astralis game. This one broke my heart, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching it, and I was the one that was supposed to do the match report here, so I was watching it a little bit more intensely than the FURIA game, than the 0-0 Nation game. But like, just I have no idea what the what was going on with FURIA. They looked on, like I was saying with 0-0, they looked on the back foot the whole time. They didn't seem confident. Mirage, I expected that, like, they had a good T-side half at 7-8, and that kind of like should be able to help you out and get that advantage, but they still couldn't put these things away. Nuke, obviously, very hard against Astralis. I think we all know. Astralis on Nuke is always very good, very, very classic. But this, it just, they couldn't string stuff together. They were losing advantages, and players just didn't have their day. Drop. Safi. I do this every time. I was even there. I've even asked him.
You just got to commit.
Safi was amazing. 1.22 rating. He was plus 6 KD. He had an ADR of 83. Like 23 and 17. Like, he's doing great. But the rest of the team, that's not helping. Drop had a very poor game. 7 and 18. 0.56 HLTV rating. Like, we've talked about this before, and we've said, like, they've had some uncharacteristically poor performances. Why do we think this is continuing through Cologne?
I'm not quite sure. I think, I don't know. I think that's something that would have to be pinpointed from players or coach. Honestly, this slump has continued, and I don't think we've gotten a lot of answers through interviews either. It just seems to be like, it's just, right now things are not gelling right now, and they might be in the case of, let's just carry this through the player break kind of thing. Maybe it's burnout. I don't know. There's a lot of different variables to it, but like, honestly, off the top of my head, I don't know. But Nuke specifically, when you're slumping and you have to start off on Nuke against Astralis, obviously not ideal. And we talked about this yesterday where, these are both not so hot teams. So it was a lot of this was going to come down to whose individuals were going to come out, and especially map 1, like, nobody on FURIA besides Safe came up. And if Kea Serato and Yuri don't show up, a lot of times Furia struggles. So,
and I mean, even when we move on to Mirage, again, this is Furia's pick, and Seffi, who went from being leading of the scoreboard, is now bottom of the scoreboard, and Drop like kind of recovered himself there. Like he's posting up decent numbers, at least a bit of a recovery there. But I don't know, like what can we take away from this kind of loss against Astralis? When we look at it, it's not like it's so different. Like all the players are kind of together. They're like, I get that in the first map, Drop was so poor, but even in this Mirage one, everyone kind of seemed to just be a little underperforming together.
Yeah,
I worry about this team, and maybe it's burnout, maybe it's something that they need to do heading into this player break, but causes some concern. I mean, do you think that maybe Furia needs to change some pieces? Are there pieces out there in the Brazilian scene that Furia can look to as a possible answer for their struggles?
I mean, are there pieces? Sure. Should they look? No. Nitro said it pretty well in the interview that we did with him when asked about complexity, and they're doing way worse than Furia. And he even said, I wouldn't even go as far as a roster change, just because from like a player perspective, he thinks that's something that, should be done like absolutely last minute, or last, when there's no other steps to take, when nothing can be done from like a philosophical level, from a chemistry level, from just like any kind of team day-to-day perspective. So like, I don't know. I think this team is young enough. I mean, how long have they even been together? They've only played 80 maps together.
It's a good, they're young enough, but they've been together a while, and they've had some success, but overall they seem to be struggling. I'm wondering, where's that killer instinct that we saw from Furia to be a top 5 team?
Yeah, I mean, they beat G2 at Dallas. You know what I mean? So, and they beat Cloud9 at Dallas. So are they shaky? Sure, but I think so close to the player break, I think maybe you just give them one more window. Another 3-month window, another 4-month window, whatever the next period of tournaments after this next transfer window comes.
Yeah,
I think you cycle it through then, and if absolutely after like a philosophical and tactical change, if you can't fix anything, I think maybe you fix it up, just because there were some high points here, and honestly, from like, if you break it down, this lineup together, like there's still a lot of positives. So I don't know. If there's some people that are willing to contest breaking up complexity like Nitro is, I think we can hold off on Furia. Just me.
It'll be interesting to see. I think we should look at the matches tomorrow, because those are going to be interesting. We touched on it very quickly before. 00 Nation and Liquid will be playing. Now, both of the matches from North America are going to be happening at 6:30 in the morning. Like, come on, dude. It's Saturday. I don't want to get up at 6:30, but you know who's going to get up at 6:30? I'm going to be up at 6:30. And we're going to be watching the matches. They know I'm going to be. They know that I will do it no matter what's going to happen. So, it's a killer. Well, I think the match to watch for tomorrow is 100% going to be 00 Nation versus Liquid. That, to me, is going to be the best match that we will see. We have two teams that, while they're still trying to figure out their pieces, they're both coming in with a lot of hype. 00 Nation taking in that core from Godsent. You have a lot of exciting pieces on there. Obviously, Taco and Cold Zero are the highlights. Try, who's been really kind of a revelation in the last few matches. And then Liquid with the Kinder, who showed such promise on Dust 2, which hopefully they let through again. That's going to be my match to watch. So, going through there, what do you think that your scoreline pick is going to be?
I'm leaning towards a 2-1. My bias is Liquid, obviously, just because. I mean, I don't really have to explain that. Like when I'm looking at like 00 Nation, and when I look at Liquid, like the last time that 00 Nation played Spirit, which happened to be 3 days ago, so at the play-ins. I don't know if you guys can personally, like, my memory is so shot when it comes to CS because there's so many games. So digging into that one, I had to look at, and 2 of the 3 maps played, Liquid actually played Spirit in. So there's some mutual maps there between 00 Nation and Liquid. Dust 2 and Ancient, they both played Spirit on those maps. 00 Nation lost on both. Liquid actually beat Spirit on Dust 2, obviously. So there's some commonality there between the two. And then when we look back to like the Godsent core of like Dumao and Lotto and Taco, I believe, off the top of my head, like when they played at Pro League, Liquid like smashed these guys. So there's some interesting like weaving storylines between the two. I'm overall very excited to see what the current iterations come with, but again, my biases is going to say map 3 Liquid's going to etch it out.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely going to come down to a lot of what the vetoes are, what the plays are. We have an interview with Elige. I think that's going to be coming out soon as well.
Yes.
Basically, Liam was talking with him, and they're like, we had to throw away the strap book. Everything's kind of undone. And now it's a lot of new learning process. What are the new protocols? What are the new strats? I think Daps brings a lot to this team.
Oh, yeah.
That Adren wasn't able to do. Just not because Adren was bad, but I just think that they're very different coaches. So we could see a lot more interesting things coming out of here. And especially with Elige being forced onto these different positions and him really kind of being pushed out no longer into those star roles.
Yeah.
Going to be some meshing that really has to come along here. So
yeah,
I think it could be a 2-1. I'd slightly favor Liquid, but I'm a little more pessimistic here.
Okay.
I think that 0-0 Nation has a very legitimate shot of upsetting Liquid here. I think that the Brazilians are strong. They're ready to pounce on any mistakes that Liquid makes. And the worst thing that Liquid does is that they let themselves lose. They beat themselves. They allow teams that have been closed out to come right back into it. We saw it in that match against Spirit. Liquid 100% had the victory in the bag, but for some reason there's a miscommunication error or there's something and your Kinder's taking a walk all the way half around the map. Like, we have to figure out how Liquid can stop them from just beating themselves.
Absolutely.
Looking on to the second matchup, FURIA Outsiders. I'm really disappointed. I don't have a lot to be excited about with FURIA right now.
No, absolutely.
And I think this might be a 2-0. I think this might be a 2-0 for Outsiders. I really hope I'm wrong, but nothing that I've seen over the last few weeks has given me any sort of confidence to fully back FURIA in any kind of fight here.
Right. I fully agree with you on that one. I don't have much of positivity to offer on behalf of FURIA, honestly. I don't think they're like in the hole quite like, Complexity is, but again, I think it would just be kind of favorable for FURIA to kind of just if they are going to limp their way out of this event, then maybe just do that and then just move on and just forget these losses and look forward to the next series of tournaments, because it's not been good for them lately. They've lost, I don't know, like 4 or 5 in a row. They're, you know what I mean, like 5 of 6, something like that. Like it's been consistently bad online, at LAN, whatever's been going on. It's been poor. So, and Outsiders, they haven't been that bad, honestly, with the new roster moves. It hasn't been great, but
right. But I think Norbert and Fame have really been solid additions onto that team, especially when you're losing players like Buster and Kinder. Like those are 2 losses.
Oh yeah, Yakindar is like a huge loss, obviously. So Fame and Norbert coming in and doing, what they can has been good, definitely.
Yeah.
And then I think it's enough to take FURIA out, and I think an 0-2, a 2-0, whichever way you want to word it. I think that's not out of the. I think that's more likely than it going map 3.
Alrighty. Okay. I think we have to talk about one thing. I see it in the chat a little bit here. We should just talk about really quickly this dumb XSET thing. The Stewie thing. This is not real. This is just none of this. Like, I'm like 99.9% sure that this is just not real. Like, no one heard about this at all. This has not been not reported at all. This would have been leaked. This would have been done out. There's no way that he's doing this. It's as dumb as it's just dumb. And the way that they're doing it, especially because in some Valorant thing today, they're going ahead and making all of these jokes about like players that are coming and these surprise fake announcements. And it's like, you know what? Why are we doing this? Why do we need to do this? You're a verified organization. You're a genuine organization. This just doesn't make sense. Now, I could be totally wrong and this could be totally real, but like, I think it's bad. And it's like, here's another problem, and which I think is really, really bad. If this is fake, XSET is using an individual player's who's not their contracted player. They're using his imagery with all of their own like commercial partners. So they're stealing commercial IP from someone else. Okay. I think that this is like 100% fake. And I think that XSET has kind of been an idiot. They've done a huge fucking dumb thing. So that's what I want to say. But how do we feel about Stewie moving to Valorant potentially?
I was just gonna say if it is real, if this is real, this is the awful rollout. Like that's all I want to say. Like if it's real,
The
just really
Photoshop looks so
yeah.
bad.
Regarding his opinion or how he feels about moving to Valorant, he's allowed to make that decision. I have no whatever about Stewie. He can do whatever he wants. It might be good for him to stay out of the limelight and see us for a little bit. If that means going to Valorant, then sure. It ended up okay for Nitro, I guess, and a few others. So by all means,
Nitro got the bag. Nitro did get the bag, so
I don't
I'll give him
personally.
that.
I don't have any interest in Valorant, so if he goes, I won't really notice beyond the announcement. So that's just me. But best of luck to him, whatever he decides to do. That's all I'll say.
All right. Well, I think that's going to kind of wrap up our show again here. We've got our predictions for tomorrow. I think that FURIA is going to lose. I think that Liquid has a slight edge over 0-0. Yep. Yours were?
I think FURIA loses to Outsiders, and I think Liquid wins tomorrow. The one thing that I want to say, regardless of Liquid winning, I just want to see Yekindar and one of Elige or Naf like also performing alongside with him as like a number 1 and 2, and I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah,
because we did not get that. We got Nitro performing well alongside him. We got OC performing the clutches after Yekindar got the impact, and then we got like Elige playing well and Naf playing well, but then Yekindar was like 0-8, 0-9. So like I want to see if they can do that and what that looks like with Yekindar 1, Elige 2, or Naf 2, or Yekindar 2 with one of those guys 1 kind of thing. So because that's when we'll see the full potential of this Liquid project.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, everyone, quick shout out of our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, legal in 33 U.S. states. Only bet if you are a U.S. resident and of age. You can do all of your pick'ems. I've been having some fun with the pick'ems. We had some fun with our pick'ems that we talked about yesterday. We didn't hit all of them, but we got pretty close. Kinder kind of screwed us on map 2 when he went over 13 in like the first half. But overall, great website.
That's why you bet responsibly.
Exactly. Never bet more than you can afford to lose. Use code DUST2 and get up to $100 onto your first deposit. And yeah, always gambler aware and all that fun stuff. That's what I'm going to say.
Be aware.
That's going to kind of, yeah. I'm kind of fumbling it here. I don't have a good ad read. That's going to do it for the show. We'll be back again tomorrow after all of the day's matches. Until then, we will see you later.
Yes. Hopefully with good news. Goodbye.